Hey guys, Taki here. Today we're going to take a look at the emulation performance of the Pocket Air Android handheld. I just did a first look at this guy, so if you haven't seen it, feel free to take a look at the link down in the description box below. I originally intended for this video to showcase a ton of systems, but I opened up the test to viewer suggestions, and a lot of you guys came in with PS2 games that you wanted to see. There were so many PS2 titles that you guys wanted to see on this, so I decided to do a video dedicated just to PlayStation 2 emulation. I'll group all of the remaining systems in a separate video. As a recap, these are the specs of the prototype that I have on loan. Even though we do not have the SoC, I think you'll get a good idea of where we are just with these PS2 titles. For these games, I mostly went with viewer suggestions, but there were some games that I wanted to include for myself. I want to point out one thing before we get started. You may notice strobing or flickering on this screen throughout this video. This is something that is impossible to see with the naked eye, but the camera can obviously see it. I can limit this to an extent by changing camera settings, but then I will have more significant flickering for my studio lights, so this is as good as it will get for now. This shares the same screen as the Neo Air, and that screen doesn't have this issue with my camera, so the Pocket Air probably will be in the same boat further into development once they change around the frequency parameters. Anyway, let's kick things off with our PS2 titles. Shout out to the developer for helping me out with this video. Our first game is one that I wasn't even aware of before it was suggested. Here's Champions Return to Arms at 2x native resolution. It's a cool top-down hack and slash, so I'm glad that this one was suggested. Next up, we have Colin McRae Rally 3 at 2x native resolution. I'm not good at this game as you can see, but it does run well on this handheld.
Into care long crest and 3 right. And long 6 left.
For our third game, we have Devil May Cry 2. Even though we are testing a lot of these games at 2x native resolution, we can go up much higher for games like this. Here's the game at 5x native resolution. Moving on, here's Dragon Quest VIII back at 2x native resolution. This game runs well as we travel around this first area, but we are not free of graphical bugs. Time for a wall of RPGs. Here's Final Fantasy X at 5x native resolution. This is a demanding area in the game, and it's running without issue. Up from here, we have Final Fantasy X-2. These high resolutions are kind of pointless with a 1080p panel, but they won't be if we can get 4K video out. And our final Final Fantasy game is 12, also at 5x native resolution.
We need you to be there for us, Vaughn. You're no good to anyone if you're locked away in a dungeon.
Oh, what? Am I the leader now?
Back to viewer suggestions. Here's God Hand at 4x native resolution. We'll take a break from high resolutions for a moment with God of War at 2x native resolution. I showed this in my last video, but here it is again. God of War 2 at 2x native.
Show no mercy! I am the God of War!
Here's another viewer suggestion, Gran Turismo 4 at 3x native resolution. This is a new game for me, but I really enjoyed testing it on the Pocket. I have the acceleration set to R2 and it works very well. GTA San Andreas was another viewer suggestion. Here it is at 4x native resolution.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I come to America to bring the love from Europe. I am creating a scene here. It is very important. It is my sculpture in you.
Our 13th game is Grandia III at 5x native resolution. We need to drop back down to 2x native resolution to test Prisoner of Azkaban. The remainder of this video is pulled from viewer suggestions only. Here's Hitman Blood Money. This game has some big graphical issues, but it works. Here's a heavyish title, Jak and Daxter at 4x native resolution. The Pocket Air handles this game like a champ. When it comes to Metal Gear Solid 3, we can use 4x native resolution, but there are times when the FPS will dip down as trees fade out of view, so I went with 3x. This game runs well at this setting, but some cutscenes will lag even when we drop down to 2x. I had requests for 2 Ratchet & Clank games from my last video. Here's the first one at 4x resolution. This is kind of crazy for me to see this in a handheld because I can remember when even running this at 1x was a struggle.
Gadgetron's OmniWrench 2000 includes a new bonus. Activate, use the R1.
Ratchet & Clank Going Commando can run at 5x native resolution, but it has some slowdown in bigger areas, so I dropped this down to 4x as well. And here's the big one. This had the most requests out of any title from the comments in my last video. As you guys know, Shadow of the Colossus is a massive game and it's a very demanding PS2 game to emulate on ARM. In this first area, we can run this at 3x native resolution without issues, but we have about a 3 to 4 FPS dip when we take on the first boss, so I think 2x is a safe setting, or maybe 2.5x. Our next title is Persona 4. This game runs perfectly at 2x native resolution.
Persona! Counting on you!
Sly 1 through 3 were suggested from various people, so I included all of them in this video. When it comes to Sly 1, we can run this game at 2x native resolution with a few dips here and there. We could use underclock settings to smooth this out a bit, but I'm just going to keep this at 0, 0. Sly 2 runs a lot worse. Even with underclocking and setting the resolution to 1x, there are a lot of areas where the FPS drops off.
Cooper's right here. I caught him.
This is getting a little hot. You guys go warm up the van.
Finally, we have Sly 3. This is at 2x native resolution with a -1/+2 underclock. We have dips in the city, but the game doesn't run that bad. Battlefront 2 is another requested title. This one runs very well at 4x native resolution.
Take out that super! One more to go.
We only have a few titles left in this video. Tekken 5 runs very well at 4x native resolution.
Fight!
I don't know if Valkyrie Profile 2 is considered a heavy title or not, but it did run sluggish until I applied a patch that removes bloom from the game. After that, the game can run at 4x native resolution with an occasional dip of 2 to 3 FPS, so I opted for 3x native instead.
Hey, we'll figure it out. Think you can dodge this?
I had one request for Xenosaga 3, with 2 other people that just said Xenosaga. This game can run at 4x native resolution in the world, but battle effects with explosions drop the FPS a bit, so I went with 3x to be safe. And our final game for this big viewer suggested video is Zone of the Enders. This is the first time that I've ever played this game, but it's pretty awesome and worth checking out if you've never played it before. This game runs well at 4x native resolution. As you can see, the Pocket Air handles PS2 very well. I just think it depends on how competitive the pricing is for this, and if they can implement a lot of the software features that I talked about in my last video. If you like this video, take a look at a recent video that I did on an $85 router that can also play PS2 games. That thing was pretty awesome. Happy gaming, everyone. Taki out.